one thing is for certain, the Bengals went into the 2025 draft with a different approach. And they had to have one. They had to have one in a big way. They walked in there where you could arguably say they need 2 starting guards. They're going to get a second proven defensive end, possibly another one out the door. Same story at linebacker. You could say the same at safety, although they are praising Nick Scott over there. But the Bengals draft first round, second round, third round, all players of a position that could start day one. Completely different philosophy for the Bengals. I mean, you got to go over the names over the years that were just expected to not start day one. They had a plan. They had guys there. They already had starters, whether they was paying them. You know, you had William Jackson. You had Darqueze Dennard. Dax Hill. Like even Mims last season, they signed a tackle, planned on him starting day one over him. This year, not going to be the case. Things would have to fall apart for guys like Dylan Fairchild not to get an opportunity to start day one, as there is 2 guard positions open. Likely he slides in at left guard. Then you have Demetrius Knight Jr. You know, Jermaine Pratt wanting to trade one out the door. There's a good chance either the Bengals waive him, they don't get a suitor, or they trade him for what would be a 6th or 7th round pick. And that door is going to be wide open. Sam Hubbard gone. Of course, Miles Murphy can step up. Trey Hendrickson, I expect him to be here. He could leave. But there, again, wide open position at the defensive end position. And you would expect with a draft pick like that, he develops into a pass rusher, and he can be your early down guy. He can be a pivotal early down guy, too, that can give Trey some rest, give him a chance to come in more on those passing downs. Obviously, you want your stud out there as much as possible. But you see guys like that can instantly be an impact. And we're just bringing it up. And this is the problem with the Bengals, I think, in the past. They have historically, outside of the top 5 can't miss players, the Chases, the Burrows, the AJ Greens, outside of the top 5, they've historically not drafted for starters. They just, for whatever reason, that's not been their philosophy. Everybody says, hey, best possible position, or best position, but best player available is the way to go. And then people say the Bengals don't do that. And I think I don't know if I agree with that, because you look at some of the picks they've taken and they're not starting day one. You know why? Because there's somebody ahead of them. The difficult thing, I would have loved Walter Nolan. The difficult thing you look at, though, is say, look at the money they just poured at the defensive tackle position, the money they got at those 2 guys. And that's the difficult thing with the draft. It's after free agency. If it was draft first, free agency second, you got a lot of things open. The scary thing about, the Bengals addressing all these needs in free agency this season was, let's say they went out there and got a left guard. Let's say they went out there and signed an edge rusher. 29 years old, probably a 2-year deal. Now all of a sudden, you got 2 edge rushers making 10, 15 million plus a year, and you're a lot more reluctant to draft use a first round pick on a defensive end because, well, you got all that money poured into it. That's the difficult situation with the draft after free agency. And I think that is, in essence, that's where free agency are the best possible available. It should come to fruition. It hasn't worked well for the Bengals, but that is where the beauty of it is, because at the end of the day, you just want good ball players. You want good ball players because that way when free agency comes around, you have less holes to fill. Because the Bengals have been so lackluster in the draft, they've been so lackluster in developing these players, they're entering free agency with all these needs. So for me, as much as I look at the draft, and you can nitpick everything you want. At the end of the day, I'm happy they went after positions of need. They had so many positions of need, they had a lot of options, right? I think you wasn't taking a quarterback, you wasn't taking a wide receiver. Everything else, pretty wide open. They feel good about the CBs, of course, but everything else pretty wide open. So it made it a little bit easier where best possible available could be a starter. But I feel like it does feel different this year where they're like, hey, we are very open to starting these guys day one. And that's the difference. That is the difference so much with these good football teams when they can start these guys day one, because now you're getting 4 years out of service, rookie contract. Next year comes around, you already know you got this guy locked down 3 years. You can focus on more of a different need in free agency. You'd love to go out in free agency and just nitpick players. Guards a little bit cheaper, maybe a defensive tackle a little bit cheaper, opposed to your edge rushes, your tackles. You'd love to be able to be a little bit more articulate, methodical in free agency, where you have to spend every single dime that you have in order to be competitive. So I think, it's like take a step back, be a little patient. At the end of the day, say what you will about any of these picks. All that matters is if they end up being good ball players. If all 3 of these guys end up being good ball players, the Bengals are in a very good position 3 years from now. If they swing and miss on all three of them, they are in a very bad position 3 years from now. We'll see what happens. Hoping for the best. I'll be all thoughts. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.